The one in education is supplying trade and commerce. The one there is supplying agriculture. The one in agriculture is supplying health and so on and so forth. So if there's a tender, you'll get 3 bids, all of them from actually one person. And the prices were inflated. An item which is supposed to be bought at 100,000 shillings is bought at 5 million shillings. And that's where the government was losing money. The government was leaking. So once we subjected all these procurement officers to lifestyle audit and sacked some of them, because the government was now procuring competitively. The prices became less, so the government was able to get more. And that is how we succeeded. You see that the government of Kibaki succeeded. It succeeded because of what we did. Right now, first the civil service is demoralized. They are bringing people from outside the civil service, being made permanent secretaries. Somebody who has never even been to Kabete to be trained in administration, does not know how civil service is working, is being recruited and made in there. It's just so and so, so long as it's from my tribe. From my tribe. These things are not going to get better because these people are actually messing up. They don't know how to run a competitive economy. They will not, things will not change. And you cannot be one person, you're Mr. President. You are the permanent secretary in all ministries. You are the minister in all ministries. You know everything. Even if El Nino is coming, you're the one who knows the El Nino is not coming. The work which should be done by the director of meteorology is being done by you as a president. Everything, you must be talking about on everything. Even if it's somebody's wife the Nini did not dress properly, you're the one who know. So this is where we have a problem. And so these people, they don't know that they don't know. And we are not ready to advise them because they know everything. Okay? Because they know everything. So you people have a responsibility to sensitize the people. So now, chance is no longer the cheapest. A vacuum is building down there, which Kenya can actually fill with proper policies. But you cannot do it if you've got mediocrity and the kind of rogues and thieves running our affairs. These thieves will take us nowhere. The cost of living, which Jim is talking about here, will not go down when these thieves are in charge. This cost of living will not go down. You see, today, people are suffering all over. If those who are saying that demonstrations by Azimio inaharibu biashara yetu, leo wanakuja wanasema baba yuko wapi? Na baba ako kimya. He's not talking. Because they say that demonstrations are destroying our businesses. No, their businesses are being destroyed not by demonstrations, but through taxation. Taxation. Sasa umbwa anakula watoto yake. Si umbwa anakula watoto yake. Sasa wasema ati mkuki kwa nguruwe, kwa binadamu ni chungu. So sisi, we were here. Manake walisema wao ni wanajua vile watafanya. Ati hii deni ilichukuliwa mingi, all this time, all rubbish. Now they were saying that the cost of fuel. I showed Babu yesterday a gazette in the Tanzanian newspaper showing how they're reducing the cost of fuel of petrol, of diesel, of paraffin. And they're saying that because of the war in the Middle East, Israel and Palestine, the cost of fuel has gone down. Here, Mr. Shirishiri is telling you, because of that war, the cost of fuel has gone up. Yet the source where Tanzania is buying is the same source where Kenya is also buying. Who is fooling who? Eh? So you see, the reason why the cost of fuel is up is very different. They killed what is called OTS, where there used to be an open tender system where all the oil companies will come and bid to supply the fuel. And when the tender has been opened, the cheapest is awarded and goes and brings it. They came up with what they're calling G2G, that themselves are now buying directly from Abu Dhabi and from Saudi Arabia. But they themselves are the ones who are making the commissions. That's why the cost of fuel is going up. That money is actually ending up in the pockets of the same people here. Umbwa inakula watoto yake. Thank you so much, and I feel very delighted to have an opportunity to meet with you this morning. I was somehow ambushed, but I said, yes, I'm ready to meet them and see their faces. So I've heard so many things that you guys have talked about. I noted the issue of funding of the education in the country, the funding model, the disbursement. You talked of the cost of living. You talked of mental health in the university, which is now acute. You talked about police brutality, academic freedom. Then you also talked about the electoral process, universal suffrage. You talked about the girl student and the problems that they face. You talked about insecurity in the institutions. Then you talked about involvement in decision making, and of course the funding model and so on. And yeah, then generally the fear that you talked about. You see, it is Shakespeare who said in Julius Caesar that I don't know why you should fear death, that death is a natural evil that will come when it will come, that cowards die so many times before their death, but the brave don't taste of death but once. But another friend of mine said, you should never fear at all. If you are sick, you should not fear, because you'll either be treated and you'll recover, or you will die. If you recover, you don't need to fear anything. But even if you die, you don't need to fear. Because when you go up there, you will either go to heaven or go to hell. When you go to heaven, you have nothing to fear. But when you go to hell, also you have nothing to fear. You meet so many of your comrades. You'll spend a lot of time just greeting them, saying, how are you doing? Before your time comes to go to fire. So don't fear. You don't need to fear anything. Okay? So, but Jim has told you, where we are coming from. I myself was a student leader in Europe. We used to have what was called Federation of Kenyan Students in Europe. And I was the Secretary General who organized all Kenyan students from Ireland all the way to the Urals. That means Soviet Union in those days. And we used to meet and organize ourselves and actually make contributions that assisted the people who are struggling back here at home. We were members of the International Students Union, which James has just referred to, which is based in Prague. At that time, the leader was from Angola, a member of what they call MPLA, which is now the ruling party in Angola at that time. And this students' movement actually assisted the liberation movement back at home. In those days, Zimbabwe was still called Rhodesia, struggling. Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde were still under the Portuguese colonialism. South Africa, apartheid was ruling supreme in South Africa. Then the student movement those days actually fought and assisted the freedom fighters. We also organized scholarships for young people who were there in the bush to come to Europe and get education at that time. Now, when we came back here, the university students from Nairobi were very, very fundamental in supporting the movement for change in the country. And they suffered for that. Jim here was the student leader when I was myself member of the academic staff at the University of Nairobi. They used to be arrested. You see that the central police station is just next door there. And then there was a Mzungu. What was the name of that Mzungu? Who was the Nairobi area. But then there was another one called Patrick Shaw, who was very notorious. He coming down there to beat up the students. But they stood very, very firm. There were quite a number of them who were arrested, some of them were expelled. After him, the late Oki Ombaka. Before that, there was a Wori Wakataka. And then there were several other student leaders who were actually arrested or expelled from the university at that time. That is a time when the erosion of academic freedom had started in our institutions. And this has continued to, this struggle for freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of speech, particularly academic freedom at the university, has been very much part and parcel of the struggle for democratization in our country in general. And you see that there is always attempt to try to muzzle the student voice. There's no doubt that this amendment was moved by one who is now the Minister for Defense to deprive the students with the right to elect their leaders of choice by bringing the so-called delegate system. I see. But as Bob was told you, this matter is coming back to Parliament. And our instruction to our members is to ensure that you go back to universal franchise. One man, one vote. One man, one vote, 1 shilling. Okay? We will work to see that this happens. Then, this issue of funding model which they have brought here, it's very confusing. It is not quite clear because they're talking about those without any means who will get 100% support, those with some little bit of ability or support, and then those who don't require support at all. And you ask yourself, where is the barometer? How are you going to test the temperature? You will see that so and so parents are employed, but that fellow who is employed is actually supporting 10 students or children. Somebody is probably earning less down here, but is only supporting one student. This student went to a national school. Then it's assumed that the student has got means. How do you know? Going to a national school is just because of the marks that you received at the examination. And maybe your uncle can offer to sponsor you. Or just a friend with the family can offer to sponsor you because you've done well. That does not mean that this fellow is going to sponsor you at the university. So all these things they're coming about with are things which have not been tested. They are basically like people who are walking in the dark. And then the issue of using police in the institutions of learning is again something that we have condemned very strongly. That universities should be allowed to do their things, and the police should not be used excessively in the universities. Students should be able to engage and dialogue with the university authorities. That is the civilized way of running universities. But we are dealing with a state that has gone rogue too early. Too early. And that is where we are having these problems. Now, we set down ourselves as members of Azimio and looked at education in a country. Because education is what actually differentiates societies. You find a country like Japan does not have any kind of natural resources of any of repute. Japan does not have minerals, does not have gold, does not have oil, does not have uranium, and so on and so forth. But Japan is number 3 in the world in terms of economic development. How? Basically because of the quality of education of the Japanese people. That is what has put Japan where it is. They use their brains to create wealth. And this is what has been lacking on the African continent. Because Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of natural resources. The paradox is that the richest in resources is also the poorest. That the living conditions in Africa is far much below the other countries which do not have as much resources as Africa has. And that is what we said we wanted to correct. And it can be corrected. But it can only be corrected by empowering the African people. Right from the African child going up. And here you must talk about the girl child and the boy child. Give them equal opportunity to be able to realize their natural talents. This is why we said that we want to start by creating free primary, secondary, and even university education. And then, because then you have empowered the people. But we also talk about the quality of education. What kind of education are you giving these people? See, today we have a problem here, where you have got universities all over. When we were here, when Jim was first student here, they are some of the first students to join University of Nairobi. It used to be University College of Nairobi. I was employed by University College of Nairobi, which was a constituent college of the University of East Africa, whose headquarters were in Makerere, in Kampala. So Nairobi was a campus, Dar es Salaam was a campus, and Makerere a campus. That time. Then, of course, eventually we got University of Nairobi. Then now eventually we started Kenyatta College. We used to call it Kenko. It also became a university. Then the proliferation of universities now all over the country. We now have, I don't know how many public universities. How many? Huh? 72 universities in the country. But what is important is the quality of education which is coming out of these universities. It's important. And this should be looked at in terms of demand for skills in the country, so that education is relevant to the demand on the market in our country. You see, you find a situation here where you've got many companies around looking for people to employ. And then you have got many people with certificates from universities looking for employment. But they're not employable here. The jobs which are available are not commensurate with the qualifications of those who are demanding the jobs. So we need to find a way in which we can match the demand of society with what is being trained in our our schools of learning, in universities, so that there is no gap. Some people have papers, but these papers are not useful to them. So we need to make it relevant. I've been telling people that, look, how does China manage to come from a poor third world economy to number 2 in the world, threatening the United States? In the next 10 years, China is going to be the biggest economy in the world. How did they do it? They did it by first